Actually, Dankah, if you look on the Third Strike channel, I think maybe 3 days ago, played SA1, and me and Steelhammer were talking about it. It was artistry, man. It was ridiculous. He kept getting it off.
Who, Rue? Talking about Rue?
Yeah, Rue.
Now it was like recent footage.
Recent, like I want to say 3 days ago.
Oh, this guy
on the Third
was,
Strike.
oh, he was bored. He must have been bored. He's trying to have fun. Switch to SA1.
He's got those lockdown jitters. He's got to shake the rust off.
Oh shit! Don't we all? You're living in PA right now, right?
No, Maryland. I just bought a house here.
Oh, that's dope. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. You're looking at it. Trying to keep it clean.
That's fire.
Oh, it's clean. It's clean.
How long has it? You were living in PA before that, though, right?
No? So I was in PA. You're right. I was in PA for quite a while. I did 5 years there, and then a year in Tokyo, and then I did about a year and a half, 2 years back at PA working in advertising, and then I just like PA's great, but I had enough. Like there's only so many cheesesteaks I could eat, and only so many Phillies fans I could talk to. Until I was just like, it's time to come back to DC. So I came back to Maryland, and I've been here in Maryland for about 3 years.
That's dope. I wanted to get into your year in Japan and just that whole process, because that was a student exchange, right?
Yeah. So I've spent total 2 years in Tokyo, living there, both times as a student.
Mm-hmm.
My first time though, it's really weird to think about, because I knew I was coming on here and I was like, yeah, I'll talk about it. But it's 8 years ago now. Wow. I moved to Tokyo when I was 20.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I turned 21 in Tokyo, and so it felt very strange, but it was an amazing ride. And yeah, I did my junior year in college at Temple University, and it's kind of funny, like people talk about fate or like things lining up in life, and when I look back at my time in Japan and then the things that led up to that, like I went to Temple in Philadelphia. I didn't plan on learning Japanese as a minor, but it turns out they had a great program. So I was like, yeah, let me try it. So I tried it. And then a year into that, they say, hey, by the way, Temple has a great campus in Tokyo. Would you like to go? And it costs the exact same amount that it costs in Philadelphia to go there. I was like, hell yeah, let's do that. So that fell into it. Then I land in Tokyo. I go on the Facebook group or whatever that they have set up for the new like exchange students, right? Ryan, Let Blood Run, is in the Facebook group. And I hit him up because I'm like, hey man, don't you play a Denjin or like Family Fun? And he's like, how do you know about that? And I was like,
that's fucking bizarre.
My name's Dan. I play Third Strike. He's like, no way. And so we both go to Temple, Japan in Tokyo. So it's like things line up, right? Didn't plan on taking Japanese, took it. Didn't plan on living in Tokyo. They happen to have a great program. I knew I was going to go there and play a ton of Third Strike. That's like pretty much all I did when I was there. But like Ryan was already there at Temple Tokyo. And so it just like everything came together perfectly. Yeah.
And how serious were you into Third Strike before going to Japan? Were you?
I was pretty serious. Yeah. I started playing. I think you and I are the same age, Frankie, right? You're 28.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I started playing like tail end of 2009, pretty much. Like Street Fighter 4 came out, and I messed around with that. I still love Vanilla Sagat.
Oh, he's delicious.
So underrated, that game. Vanilla SF4 is so underrated. Dude, so underrated.
Is really fun. Vanilla is really fun. And so I had played that, and my friend actually in high school, shout out to my friend Jim Yo, Twinnis, who also plays Third Strike. He plays other fighting games too, but he sent me a project for a class that we were in high school, and he accidentally sent me MAME, which is NFBA and like all that stuff. He's like, oh, I just sent that to my friend, sorry. And I was like, what is this? I don't need this. Like, we're doing work here. We're doing schoolwork. And he's like, no, just try it. And it had Third Strike already on it. All I had to do was like hit run.
Oh, that's dope.
And I already had a stick because of Street Fighter 4. And then like I fell in love with Third Strike. So I had at this point been playing for about 2 solid years by the time I had gone to Tokyo. Yeah. And of course I played with all the Doylestown guys in Pennsylvania, which is another thing that kind of just fell into fate, basically. Like, they had a cabinet at Siren Records. For people that don't know, it's in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour and a half north of Philadelphia. And there was a dedicated Third Strike scene with really good players, Flair and Therapist, which were some of the best East Coast players at the time.
Oh yeah.
And they're still really great, obviously. But like, they were my group to go play and learn about the game. Yeah. So I was ready. I was ready to get bodied, and I was ready to be humble and like just like enjoy the experience, right? It wasn't like brand new.
What'd you do over there in Tokyo? Was it, I mean, it was just school? Did you work over there, or was it was just Third Strike and studies?
It was more Third Strike than studying, for sure. But yeah, no, it was just studying. I didn't work there at all. I pretty much took that year to do Japanese classes, and then also like get rid of all my like gen eds. Like, I did my math, I did my art, did my history for college. So it was productive for sure. Like, I made good use out of my time. But then like I was pretty much only in class maybe like 2-3 hours a day, and then the rest was like 6-7 hours in the arcade every day, pretty much.
And which was your home arcade over there during the first go around?
So yet another thing that falls into fate. It just keeps going. It's crazy. One of the apartments that we were allowed to choose for our stay in Tokyo was about a 10-minute walk from Mikado.
I don't think they wanted you to graduate, man. I think that was they were conspiring against you, bro.
So yeah, I'm not kidding when I say everything fell into place. So my home arcade was Mikado. I played with BBK. I played with I'm forgetting the Yang, Roshikari. He went there a lot. Moderu, the Chun. Show went a good amount. It wasn't his home arcade, but he went a good amount. Who's the Alex? Plays red, white, and blue. Sakurada, that's it. Thank you.
The encyclopedia over here, the Alex encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Gold star, little sticker right here.
He's that's his home arcade. So like, we basically, I say all this to say we had like a specialist for every character there.
Awesome. That's crazy. That's like the best practice anybody can ask for. Holy shit.
Yeah, I lost to BBK a lot. That's how I learned the Dudley matchup, pretty much. Yeah. But it was amazing. Like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. It meant that I could play until 1 a.m., 1:15, whenever Mikado would play the Old Lang Syne. Like, you guys know, they play the Old Lang Syne when okay, everybody leave, in the very polite Japanese way that they normally do. They just put on music. They don't actually tell you to leave. They just know that you're going to.
Yeah.
So of course we would just crack out and still play for like another 30 minutes.
You degenerates.
Yeah, but it meant that I didn't have to take class train. We could go out and drink and talk about matches afterwards and have more deep conversations about Third Strike. We could mess around and like go to izakaya and just sit down and have drinks and have some yakiniku yakitori and just like chop it up, and then I could just walk back to my apartment.
How long did it take you learning the language to be conversational, and where it was comfortable, where you feel like you can get a good amount of knowledge and just express yourself over there?
Well, I had a year under my belt already of Japanese classes, which is good enough to like read and get around and say like, I'm going to the bathroom, I'll be right back. Like stuff like that. Or like, I'm going home, or I just got here, kind of things. But just to talk about 3S in particular, and fighting games in general, because just like short forward, roundhouse, jab strong, fierce is applicable to most fighting games here in America and in the West. You just have to learn the fighting game lingo. And the translations for that. So like Jakju Pan is just light, medium, heavy. And then you could say like Pan or Ke, and like that means kick or punch, right? And then I started learning the names of all the Japanese names of all of the moves in Third Strike. And so it's like Raigekshu is dive kick. And so you would say dive kick to them, and they'd be like, "What?" Like, I have no clue what that is. and for a while, like for the first couple months, I'd go, "Hoo, hoo." And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, dive kick, rag you." I'd be like, "What is that?" And so it was a lot of like, I had like an iPhone 6 or something, and I'm just like taking notes in notepads like furiously. Like I would love to go back and look at. I had essentially a whole dictionary just for third strike translations, so I could have those conversations. So to answer your question, it was like a couple months in to living there and playing with them and just hearing the way they talk about the game and just jotting those down and kind of upping my encyclopedia of that jargon. And then once I had that, I could just say like, before, before Ragekshu, Doldeska, it's like, why would you do this before dive kick? And it's very easy to just like put that, it's very crude, but it gets the point across.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, because you know what it is? I feel that there is a lot of interest, between people like Majin Obama and Giuna, and there's just more people wanting to make the trip, for an extended amount of time. And so like to hear that, it has to be encouraging for people, you know what I mean? To hear that the lingo is probably the most important part of communicating, probably in any industry, but for Street Fighter particularly, and then the arcade culture, because it's so close knit over there. Even when I went over there, it felt close knit, even though you're getting fucked up the whole time and they just want to beat you into the ground, and that's cool. Like I love that. But even then, it felt like they were doing it with some monicum of love. You know what I mean? So it's like it's encouraging for sure. Because I know, dude, like my girl wants to like head over there for a couple of years or so, and so if that's why I'm curious. I'm being completely selfish right now and just trying to like extract all that info. I'm actually taking Japanese like in the fall, so
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my due diligence over here. But that's dope.
I could. No lie, I could send you my Japanese books with like way too many answers in them and notes.
That'd be fine.
I don't want to encourage cheating, but like it can help a little bit, If you need me to send you some books, I got you. Genki 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think I have them, but I don't have your notes. That's what I need. I really need the notes.
There you go.
So
Dankah, I got a question. Sorry, yeah. Every time you talk to me about your experiences in Tokyo, it's always positive. So, did you have any rough patches, or did you just flash that smile? Good to
go. That's a great question. Third strike wise, or just like general in Japan?
In general.
I was really young, so I had to learn how to drink correctly. Like for sure. And like if you guys know Ryan and Farai and the current Tokyo Boys group, like they can drink.
No joke.
And I had to learn how to like keep up with them. Eventually I just learned not to try to keep up with them. And same goes for like the Japanese players, because they love to drink after they play, for like 4 or 5 hours. So like, let's go to izakaya or let's go to the konbini. And that's part of like the decompressing part and like the chatting about matches and just like, okay, now we're drinking, we can get a little bit more, loosey goosey and like talk about like, hey man, you destroyed me today. Let's talk about how you did that kind of thing. But so like learning to drink, that's one. Being like a tall, young white guy does make things easier in Japan. I will not lie. Like it is easier to be a white person in Japan if you're going to be a foreigner. And like people will not look at you with a side eye. You walk into a konbini and you say like, I want to buy this beer, and they're like, are you 20? Like they don't ask you a question. you just buy it. Like they don't care.
Like my face is my ID.
Yeah. And like I had a beard even a little bit when I was there at 20. And so like if you have a beard, they think you're like 40 years old. And they're just like, cool, yeah, sure, you must be old enough. That's fine. But like I will say it would have been really hard if I had zero Japanese experience. It would have been very tough.
And there was nothing. So like when you went to temple over there, did that culture of overwork, was it present there too, or was it more like temple than it was temple in Tokyo?
It's definitely more like temple. It's first and foremost like an international school.
Oh, okay.
So like actually some Japanese people would go there more to like just do all of their studies in English to boost their English ability. Um, and they probably would have loved it because Japanese college is really tough in certain aspects, depending on what you're studying.
Right.
But no, it was pretty laid back. And like I said, like I had to study a lot for Japanese, but pretty much for all my other classes, they were gen eds. So it was just art and history and just like stuff that wasn't too tough. I wasn't, breaking my back on anything, which is good because I needed more time to be in the arcade and actually practice on what actually mattered. But no, it's like, but I will say that culture of overwork or like taking things very seriously bleeds over into the Japanese style of third strike. But it's also because you have money on the line, right? You have to pay to play.
Right,
you have to put it in 50 yen.
That's so valuable.
And you're trying. Yeah, that's one thing I'm jealous that you guys in New York have, or you at least had at one point.
Yeah, it was definitely that.
I mean, you guys could talk about that as well. Like just coming from. See, this is interesting for me because the Chinatown crew, rest in peace, Chinatown, when it was still around, and people would actually put a quarter up to play next. Like it's all this stuff that feels like such ancient history in fighting games now is still alive in Japan. So for you guys, it must have been kind of like, oh, this is a cool blast from the past now.
Oh my God. Yeah, it really was. And you know what? It's funny. I think the thing that we lacked over here was that going out to drink afterwards camaraderie, because when we started, we were so young. And so we didn't have that necessarily, but we had going to like 69 and grabbing, beef and broccoli and trying to talk about what happened. But it was certainly wasn't as academic as it was even when we went. Like we would go and drink with some of the guys afterwards, and there is that sense there that you get to talk about everything that just transpired. Like it's some alternate dimension. You know what I mean? Like it didn't really happen, but let's talk about it. And we never got that in New York. I think it was just because we were too young and immature to really like sit down and try to, really break this down in a meaningful way. But when we went, man, that whole feeling of going next and putting in the yen, that felt so good. That felt so good. And I love the change machine thing. I love beating somebody and they got to go to the change machine and they got to pass you a little bit. It's
you get to look at them while they do it. They're like, I know where you're going.
No, yeah, like, and they'll make eye contact the whole time. Like, all right, yeah. Like it feels like an anime. It really does. It's so dope. But it felt like that. It felt like a blast from the past. I don't know about Matt because I don't know how attached you were to CF towards the end there, but it was still like everyday thing for me, especially in the summer. So I don't know how it felt for you. How was it for you, Matt, when it closed down?
I definitely got disheartened because there was a time there when I was like the only guy in there playing Third Strike. Like Third Strike died for like a little bit in CF. But then Gabe Newton, the cigarette smoke, looking at certain guys, but is he Yakuza? I don't know. And then everybody was like, don't talk shit to Pro Rice. I was like, okay, enough said.
I knew it was Pro Rice. I knew you were going to say Pro Rice.
But I love that guy. He beat me the first time, but I don't know. I love playing him, but everybody was like, don't.
He's got that sleek look, you know what I mean? He's got that. He got the sleeked hair and he's all put together. You're like, yeah, he might be. Can't beat him too bad. He'll take me out back.
Might be with the streets, man. My first time we went out with Issei, he took us to what was it, Sankyu, that steak place?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I asked him for a suggestion. I said, hey, what's a good drink? And he was like, I don't know, umeshu soda. So I was drinking that all the time. And then we went to karaoke. And I just looked at him once. I was like, yo, this drink is kind of soft. It's like a soft drink. And he goes, yeah, it's a bitch drink. I'm like, dude. Why did you suggest it?
Because you a bitch. That's why. Because your Alex is soft. That's.
Oh man. So those times drinking with the crew, and then I remember that one time we went to the KO. He took us to the sumo wrestler restaurant.
Oh man, yeah. The chanko nabe.
The raw horse meat.
Oh, you had baniku. Baniku is horse meat. I have had horse meat as well. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good.
It's fucking good.
It's pretty good.
It's so good. And it was raw too. I didn't care. It tasted so good. I was with it. I didn't care.
I'm glad we're at the point where we can say that out loud and not feel bad.
Oh, about the horse meat?
About the horse meat.
Yeah, we eat everything over here. It's fine. I don't care that that's like America's animal. I don't care. It tastes good, right?
I mean, we didn't go over to Japan and eat dolphin.
Right.
You know
that's
what I mean?
True. That's true.
Somebody
put it in front of me.
Admit that.
If you say would have put dolphin in front of me, I would have eaten that shit. I do.
To be fair,
yeah.
I ate horse meat on accident. I didn't know I was eating it. I was in Osaka and they had like a market set up, like an open air market, and they had a stall, and it was just meat on a stick. I was like, oh, it's good. I walked over and I gave him like 200 yen and I had it, and then I took a circle and I came back around and I looked up, and on the top of the stall, I had like, you were talking about like how much Japanese I had known my first year there. I had just learned the kanji, the Chinese character for pork. And it just said, it was just the kanji for horse and the kanji for meat. And I was like, okay, I guess I had horse meat. It was pretty good, but
oh shit,
the dude is over here eating Point Given or whatever name from
like,
horse races.
Sea biscuit.
Sea biscuit.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
I'm so sorry, BoJack.
Well, that
but
dude,
yeah.
I was now that Matt brought up that you know, how tough was it for you over there? Is there anything else that comes to mind that isn't necessarily, you know, third strike related, or is it all cultural? Did anything kind of shock you, or were you insulated in a way because, you know, you went to the international school and you had, you know, and you had the game, like the game kind of insulates you from that type of stuff, from those dynamics. Is there anything else?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely culture shock, especially if you're going to be there for a long time. Just knowing that you're not going home for like 8 months is shock enough. You're like, all right, I'm here, and I have to like get into a routine. I have to figure out like, where's the supermarket? What am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Like, what are the Japanese foods that I like? What are the Japanese foods that don't sit well with me? Like, you don't get the 8-star curry at Koko Curry.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that you learn pretty fast. Or like the extra spicy ramen, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
So there's obviously like things to get used to, but then just like, I think it's uniquely American to be like, if someone were to say like, is America an extrovert or an introvert? Mm-hmm. America is for sure an extrovert.
Yeah.
Right. We're huggers.
Yep.
We high five. We root for our teams, you know, we'll say like F you if you know, a rival team is playing ours and stuff like that. And like, but in Japan, it's very private. It's very quiet. Like, I'm sure you guys experienced getting on a train for the first time in Japan.
It was glorious.
And if you're coming from New York, where people are like world star having fights on trains and stuff, or like the guys that break dance and people play music and are busting
I was like,
on.
yeah, where's the dancers on this train?
So just like knowing that when you get on a train, you should be quiet. And when you're on a train, you shouldn't eat, even though I did that a good amount. Or like getting used to people being publicly drunk because there's no open container laws in Tokyo or in Japan in general. And like getting used to seeing a guy with like a $5,000 watch sleeping on the street at night because he knows he's not going to be robbed. You know, like the classic drunk salaryman in the gutter kind of thing, like that is a real thing. And so there's definitely culture shock there, but I think you're definitely correct in saying that I was insulated because I was at an arcade 6-7 hours a day, pretty much every day. If it was a free play day, that's all I did that day. Like
Oh wow.
Like Game Versus would have free play from noon to 5 on Sundays. So I'd wake up at like 10:30, make some breakfast, take a shower, and then just go to Game Versus, and I'm there from noon to 5 on free play. And then I'm there probably from like 5 to 8, not on free play, but still playing, right? And then I come back, and like that's literally all I did that day was go to Game Versus, play Third Strike, chop it up with the guys, maybe get some food or something, play some more, and then just go home and get ready for class the next day. And then same thing on Wednesdays. Wednesdays at Game Newton, it was 5 p.m. to close. So I would just leave at like 3 or 4, get up to Oyama, right? Walk through the covered walkway, go to Konbini, get a cup of coffee because I'm not going to be able to compete with these guys unless I have coffee in my system. And then I'm there for 8 to 9 hours essentially. And then I'm back home, and then I go to sleep and I go to class. So all of those markers throughout the week definitely kept me insulated. You have free play on Wednesday. Mikado had Tuesday 3v3 random tournaments. Thursdays were Tozai-sen. Fridays were ranking battles. Thursday and Friday at Game Versus. Saturday was like, I think Big One did some free plays on Saturdays and stuff, but it was a little too far. I mean, you guys know it's like an hour train ride northwest of the city to get up to Big One, so it takes a while. But pretty much every day other than Monday and Saturday, I was insulated. I was just playing Third Strike, and then the other time that I spent was just pretty much studying Japanese. Yeah.
His parents were like, "How's school?" And Dankah's like, "Oh yeah, it's good, Mom. You know, learning everything. Yeah, you gotta go back.
Learning so much. You wouldn't imagine how much I'm learning over here.
To be fair, learning to speak colloquially in Japanese is extremely beneficial, and having actual conversation, because a lot of the ways that you learn Japanese are very textbook, no pun intended, and you're learning the kind of honorific and the super polite ways to say things, and always end in desu, always end in masu, and then you talk to anyone normal in Japanese in any casual conversation, they shorten everything, like all the little slang and stuff. If you don't know that word, that one word, because of the way the Japanese sentence structure works, will just throw you out of the entire like meaning. So you have no clue what they're talking about. So getting that casual conversation with, Third Strike players that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s was really beneficial, especially for my speaking. Anytime we would do a speaking test or a listening test, I would do really well compared to my writing and reading or like essays and stuff like that, just because I was talking constantly in Japanese. Albeit 99% about Third Strike, but like it still helps,
Would you ever go back to live, or you had your tryst over there and you're good in Maryland?
It's funny. I was actually having this conversation with a friend the other day, because when I did go back for my second year, so I was there 2012, 2013. That was when I was 20. And then I went back when I was like 24 or 23 or whatever in 2014, 2015. So I had spent like 2 years away, which is a good step back. And then kind of like, oh, now I'm excited again. It wasn't like 1 year on, 1 year off kind of thing. But after that second year, I kind of realized like, okay, I've had my fill. I would come back for maybe like do like a month or two at a time, but I wouldn't do anything permanent there unless I work in advertising, unless I got a job at an international company, because I'm not working for a Japanese
100%.
First of all, my Japanese is not good enough to do that.
Yeah.
If I worked really hard and I studied really hard, I could probably get to that level. I would have to take what's called the JLPT, which is the proficiency test, to show that you should be able to work in an environment, especially in something like advertising. But yeah, unless it was at an international company there, I wouldn't live there long term.
So that's it. Our expat Matt is back. We're good.
But it's funny. It's funny you say that, because at the time in 2012, it was pretty much just me and Ryan. Like we were an oddity, and it felt great because we were like big fish in the small pond, or like more like rare fish or white fish in a small pond. And it was because it was pretty much me and Ryan were like the two foreigners at the time. It wasn't until like I was just leaving that people like Nate, the Yun players you guys know, or JP Farai got there, and then it started to build from there. So like now you have, or at one point it was like Dusty, Nate, Ryan, Farai, then Face, the North Carolina Chun-Li player, moved out there. Brian, he's still living there, loves it. Aaron, the Necro player, who's sick, he's really good. I think he might have been living there in 2012, but I just never met him until I went back my second time in 2014. But like, and Ryan was pretty busy. He was teaching English and doing school, so it's pretty much just me at arcades, and I was just the lone gaijin like trying to beat Japanese players. And it is cool now though that there's like a dedicated group of gaijin third strike players that live there. Yeah.
Yo, Ryan and Farai, I don't feel like they get into like big trouble, but I feel like the police out there know who they are. Like they know we know who they are, but you know they don't get too crazy. Those two crack me up.
I have a couple stories that may or may not involve the police. I'm not even lying. I will tell one because it's not that serious, but it's really funny. The first time I ever met Daisuke was Natsu Hanabi, which means summer fireworks. Which, if for people that don't know, fireworks are a really big deal in Japan, and they have this whole like season. It's like a Capcom Pro Tour of fireworks during the summer, and it's like 3 or 4 month span. It might even be longer than that, and it's fireworks at all these cities throughout Japan. And one of the biggest ones is in Tokyo Bay, and they like get big barges out there and they launch this stuff, and it looks amazing because all the fireworks reflect off of the bay, and it's like, oh, it's amazing. You can see it from all these different angles. And so I take the train out and we go to I think it's Odaiba, which you guys have probably been to before as well if you've been to one of the previous coops that's been hosted there. And I meet Daisuke for the first time, and it's like Daisuke, Ryan, and his girlfriend at the time, and I think like 1 or 2 other friends or whatever. Anyways, it was very difficult to find a place to watch the fireworks to get a good vantage point, just because it's such a big deal. Everyone's coming out, and there's a huge crowd. And so Daisuke goes like, oh, I know a place. And it just turns out to be a bridge that you can go stand on, but it was a great viewpoint because you had no buildings in front of you. You just looked right into the bay. It looked amazing. And but back to kind of what you're saying about culture shock, everything is super bureaucratic and by the book. And so they had police officers, more like rent-a-cops for Natsu Hanabi, making sure that no one stood still and watched on the bridge. Because the theory was that you were impeding foot traffic because there was like kind of a busy road like right next to the sidewalk. So they're like, please no standing, please keep walking, please keep moving, onegaishimasu, just like being very polite. And so we would do, it lasted like an hour. So we're just walking back and forth this bridge, just like the whole time, just like looking at the fireworks and drinking, we're just hanging out, having some beers. It's gorgeous out. It's a nice summer night. And at one point, Ryan's just like, I'm not walking anymore. I'm just going to stand and watch, dude.
The ball moment.
That's it, yeah.
And I hope it is from my perspective, so it could be a little skewed. So to just keep that in mind. But I distinctly remember him standing there, and then this cop just going like, "Please move," and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Please move." Onegaishimasu. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, he's being that gaijin.
Yeah, the leather jacket boy came out of him.
And so the guy eventually like is fed up, the Japanese rent-a-cop, and he like walks up to him, like gets kind of close, and then at some point I didn't clearly see it because I was like maybe like 10-15 yards away, but I just hear like not a scuffle, but like you hear a little something, and then you just hear the Japanese. I heard a rustling in the bushes, right? And the Japanese rent-a-cop just goes, I just hear, "No touch! No touch! No touch!" So I look over, I'm like, what's going on? And Brian's just like, hey, whoa. And he goes, "No touch! No touch!" And Ryan's like, okay. And like immediately Daisuke, being the like dad that he is,
Right.
like runs over and is like, whoa. And he like, because he's Japanese,
Right.
he like tries to diffuse the situation. And like, I couldn't really hear, like anytime somebody's like yelling Japanese or like saying it really fast, it's really hard for me to understand. But like, it was basically the rent-a-cop was probably telling Daisuke, like, come get your boy. Like, what's, like, I'm letting you walk back and forth. Like, just don't stand still. Like, don't touch me to get out of here. So that was the one run-in with the law that, if you want to call it that, because it wasn't that serious, but it was very funny.
I cannot wait to yell "no touch" to Ryan next time we play offline. I cannot wait. Anytime I parry him, I'm just gonna say "no touch."
No touch. No touch. So I'm sure maybe he doesn't remember it, but I remember it vividly. I have pictures of me and Daisuke.
That's dope.
Like taking selfies with the fireworks in the back and everything like that. So that was a fun way to meet Daisuke for the first time too. So he's the homie. I've known him for a long time.
That's dope.
What was Ryan looking for? His name tag? To like look here.
I don't know.
Probably shining
Like
his
I said,
badge, like a gentleman. Just shining his badge,
Like I said, I didn't see the scuffle. I just heard a little rustling, and then I hear "no touch," and that was it. I just I'm looking from about 15 yards away. So, that was like, and that was like my third day there, my second year. So it was just like off and running.
Yeah. You pack of ruffians. I knew it.
Yeah. Did you guys have any kind of? I mean, so. Both of you have been twice, right? Or Frank, you've only been once?
I went twice. Matt went, 3 times now? 3 times.
3 times, okay.
Yeah.
Once you're there the second time, I just think the first time you land, it is a very surreal experience. Would you guys agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you feel floating. You feel like you're floating everywhere. It's strange. Everything feels like it's there and not there at the same time. I don't know. It feels like it feels like the contrast on all the colors are just like turn to this new dial that you don't experience, just especially in Tokyo. It feels like, I don't know, it felt like a replicant, you don't know how to take in all the stimuli. But the second time, you're right, I felt like just more grounded, more ready to, I don't know, just live the life. Especially, I don't know, because when I went there the second time, I went for 3 weeks. The first time I went for like a week and a half. And so that second time I really hunkered down, and it was like, you got the Airbnb, and you figured out where the supermarket was because you were going to be there for 3 weeks, and you figure out the proper exits to go into and all this stuff, and you learn the phrases that are going to help you on a day-to-day. So that time it felt a little bit more real, but the first time it felt like a senior trip. Because we were all we were all like bunkered together. It was me, Gavin, Lloyd, and Ralph from Boston, and we were like in these bunk bed. It was like this weird bunk bed B&B, and so it really felt like this. It really felt like Third Strike basic training. Or
like Third Strike Bug Juice summer camp.
No, dude, it felt just like that. And Gavin is such a maniac that this fool is up at every day at like 5, and he's waking everybody up. Yeah. He's like, let's go. We're going to go. I'm going to go into Ikebukuro, and we're going to get some breakfast. And I'm going to go play some Tekken. Let's play some Tekken. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And so it just had that vibe, Eventually, he stopped waking us up, but he was just out there. But it was so dope, like that first time.
I think because I'm old, the efficiency I just can never get past. The efficiency of their culture, like how everything is on time. The vending machines are always stocked and working. I was like, okay, this thing is going to eat my dollar this one time, my yen. When I put it in the machine, nope, crispy. It was always crispy. And Dankah, to Frankie's point, one of the reasons why I was like kind of asking other players if they would want to do like a group trip, not Third Strike related, is strictly because of Gavin. He's a planning madman.
Yeah.
That TFC trip, all we did was cut the check. Gavin took care of all the particulars. He got the big. It's crazy. Like, he's awesome for that. He'll plan it down to the T, and you just wake up and be like, all right, Gavin, what are we doing today?
Yeah, and he'll have the day-to-day, our itinerary, just ready to go every time. And he had like all
down
those
to the minute.
Yeah, dude, and he had, he had a mental schedule of when all the weeklies were going on, and so we knew exactly which arcade had the free play that day, and so we just had it planned like that. It was like, I can't remember now, but it was really like we were chasing the free play. That's how it went. And Boss and the CVS2 Boss. He would. He was like our food consultant out there, and so it was dope to have that too. It was like the mornings we did the touristy stuff, and the food stuff, and then it was from 4 on till closing. It was just that. So it was definitely a fantasy world. That's why I was curious about like the real life day to day of your trip over there. Of your stay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna get you after this. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like you were saying, like we did touristy stuff and we played Third Strike.
Yeah.
I did no touristy stuff my first year until like literally the last week I was in Japan.
Hey, maybe I should go to the Sky Tower. Maybe.
I literally went to Sky Tower like 3 days before my flight back to the U.S. Because I kind of like what Matt was joking about earlier. We're like, your mom calls you and you're like, what have you done?
Oh yeah.
I first attend Tominaga. It was sick. Like,
getting judged.
You go to the hotel from Lost in Translation. You go to Tokyo Tower. You go to Skytree. You go to Asakusa. You go to Meiji Jingu. You go to Ikebukuro, Harajuku, Nakano Broadway. Like you can go to all these places and you can bang them out like pretty fast too. Like when people talk to me, especially I've had tons of friends that have gone to visit and do vacation in Japan, and they want to do Tokyo and then they want to do like Osaka and Kyoto, right? And they say, well, how long should I be in Tokyo? And you really only need like a week. That's it. Because you can go do like one cool thing a day and you eat some great food along the way, and then you can go karaoke or go drink or go to an arcade, do whatever that night. And then just do that each day. So like one new touristy thing. Whereas like that is really cool because it sounds like you guys were able to do those things. And of course you had Gavin, who's awesome.
Yeah.
He's able to plan everything for you and do that. But then at the same time, okay, we can go be touristy for 5 hours and then we can go hit free play, which is really what you need to do. If you're someone, like if someone's listening to this and thinking, I want to go visit Japan. I want to go there for 2 weeks. I want to go there for 3 weeks, or I can only go for 1 week. That's all I can afford. The best thing to do as far as like the amount of Third Strike that you want to play and for the cheapest and to be honest, for the best like caliber of player to play against, you go to a free play event at Newton or at Versus. Big One has them too. Big One does not have quite as many players because it's not in Tokyo proper. But like you said, like just knowing where to go what day as far as when the events are happening for Third Strike is super important.
Yeah. It felt efficient when we went, thanks to Gavin.
Thanks to Gavin. Gavin is like the Expedia of the Third Strike.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right, Dankah, so it's after 11. And if you notice, Frankie, he gave us the gentleman's version of his trips and times in Tokyo. Right? So I know you went out there to better yourself. And I know you're a gentleman. You don't kiss and tell. But just touch on what the dating aspect in Tokyo was like, especially you being so young.
Yeah, I'll just say it. I dated a 25-year-old Japanese mother while I was 20.
That's right.
Living in Tokyo. She happened to go to TUJ, so I already had that kind of like normal, like I got to know her and we were friends in class and stuff like that. She was great. She spoke extremely good English. And I would say like if you're someone that is going to go there for a little bit and wants to date, knowing at least a little bit of Japanese, like go through Genki 1, which is like the Japanese 101 book if you're going to take a Japanese class. No words for stuff. No, at least like know how to like take a girl out and like pay for dinner and like order things and stuff like that. Like that's pretty important. But I will say like even in the 3 years that I took off, because 2012 and then 2015, the like acceptance of dating apps in Tokyo shot up dramatically. It's almost like how quickly like Uber and Lyft were adopted in the US. Because like I don't know, in like 2009, like nobody did rideshare, right?
Yeah.
And then in 2012, everybody did rideshare, and like no one did taxis anymore. And that's kind of how it was with dating apps in Japan. Because like you'd fire up Bumble, you'd fire up Tinder or something like that, and you're like, wow, there's way more people on here than there were 3 years ago. So they use dating apps. A lot of the times it's just girls trying to like practice their English, which is cool. Especially if you're just trying to get there and just like have a friend group to go hang out with and like practice your Japanese, it's a really good opportunity to do that too, not just for dating. And they have apps for that as well, like for foreigners to practice their Japanese and for Japanese to practice their English. So it's really cool. I would say like overall it's very polite. It is not as hookup-y as Western dating apps would be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
So, the story for you, Issei flipped everything on the head because the last trip, whatever I was doing, he would call me or hit me online and be like, "Okay, what are you doing? I want to take you to this place." So I'd meet him and I'd be like, "Oh, so how was your day today?" He was like, "Me and my friend went to go meet these girls. I wasn't feeling the one there for me, so I just left them there." I'm like, okay. We go to Kaya and we're sitting down, we're eating, and there's these two girls to the right of us, and one of them is clearly flirting with Issei, right? So Issei literally kind of just looks at them. He's like, "Nah, we're gonna ignore them for the rest of the night." I'm like, "Yo, this dude dates the way he plays Third Strike, man.
Keep away."
He's gangster.
See, I can't talk to the dating Japanese culture. I know it's a lot less open as something like the US. I think dating there is a little bit more difficult in general because people work so much, right? Compared to the US. But yeah, at least as a foreigner, like I was never in a position to like pick a girl up in real life, like just in a real life setting, like at an izakaya or something like that. It was always through a dating app, or like the girlfriend that I had there for quite a while was through school. So like, pre-existing relationships and stuff like that. I don't think I would be, suave like Issei and be able to just be like, I'm not feeling her. I'm gonna talk to her. Like, I was not on that level. No.
That's funny, dude. I'm one of it's funny because one of the reasons that I wanted you on was because to me right now I am sharing the mic with two of the best American commentators for Third Strike. That's how
thank you, man.
That's how I feel.
I appreciate that.
And so I wanted to talk to you about that, about what, like, did it come naturally to you? Do you have a philosophy of your commentary? Like, how do you approach doing it? Because you've been tapped, to commentate some pretty big events, including, being a regular Co-op Cup and single-handedly saving the Co-op Cup English commentary. I might add. So that goated you, that was like the LeBron, 3-1 comeback of Third Strike commentary. So I don't know, I just wanted to bring it up and just to see if you had any insight for folks.
Before you go,
go for it.
Before you go, I gotta say, you are hands down my favorite commentator. I usually watch my lost videos, but I watched my match versus Moon B. Maybe 12, just because of you. Like, everything he was saying, I was thinking. I was just like, this is crazy. It was great.
No, I seriously, I really appreciate it from both of you. Frankie, I think you're an awesome commentator as well. And Matt, I've been able to commentate alongside you at Cooperation Cup, which was a really awesome treat. To be completely clear, I was not tapped for anything. I just kind of like stood by the rope over near the commentary area, and I was just like, I had previously talked to Giuna before. Giuna has known of me. We hadn't technically ever met before, which was kind of interesting. When I first went there in 2012, I actually hit him up on Twitter because, again, there was so few gaijin that played fighting games currently living in Tokyo at that time. I knew he lived in Yokohama. I knew he was like a Blaze Blue player, so I hit him up. So whether he remembered me or not, I don't know. But I just kind of hung around, And to their credit, to Majin and Giuna's credit, they were super open and flexible. Like, hey, if you want to commentate, like just come on and do it. And I think they recognize they're both very smart. I think they're both very bright. They understand not only how to run a stream, but ways to run a translated stream, which is very important. They're two very different things in my opinion. And kind of to start, I would say I already have the existing Japanese, right? So obviously if Taihei is announcing something to Cooperation Cup Hall, I can translate that roughly pretty quickly. I know how the format of Cooperation Cup works. I've watched it every year. I currently write and talk for a living. I work in advertising. I work in marketing. I give presentations on ad campaigns. I chop it up with clients and I tell them why X, Y, and Z will be good for their product, or how much of an effect we think X and Y and Z marketing can have. So I'm used to talking a lot. And so to really answer your question, I do think it came naturally. And so it was just knowing about the game, knowing the players in Japan, knowing them personally. Like if you go back and you watch Cooperation Cup, when they start top 8, they walk down the red carpet, right? They don't have names floating as overlays saying, this is who this is.
Right.
No.
Right.
I can just look and be like, there's Rikimaru, Yakun, and Piero. They're on a team. Okay. And then, there's Shirokuro. He won last year. He had an amazing comeback against Matsuken. You can say these things just off the top if you're familiar with it. And I also have personally known RKF for quite a while as well. So I have that kind of relationship with him. The person who I had not met, who I ended up commentating quite a bit with, was Tenrin, the Ibuki player from California, who actually ended up being on Los Vatos Locos and going into top 8. Vatos. And he's an amazing player too. He's easily the best Ibuki outside of Japan,
100%.
Hands down. And he's a very bright guy too. But it was interesting, like getting used to when he wants to talk, when I want to talk. And like, honestly, something that I use in my professional work experience is literally biting my tongue. That is a stupid trick, but it works really well. Where if you've said kind of like your piece, like you made your point, the easiest way to avoid ums and so anyways and like just literally bite your tongue, keep your mouth closed, and just let that 2-3 seconds of silence, because silence is great. Miles Davis knew more than anybody. Silence is the greatest tool in the toolbox. And sometimes you have to let the echo of the hall or the arcade or wherever you are to kind of like play in as well, because ambiance and setting is important as well for people at home who are like trying to get into it and realize like, oh, no one says anything in the middle of the hall as these matches at Cooperation Cup in particular are happening, which I think surprises a lot of people. That like in America at Evo, the crowd is cheering for every hit.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas like in Japan, everyone's just like, like they don't want to say anything.
Oh, it's true.
And because of that, the guy, whoever is on the house mic, whether it's Taihei or Tokura or Matsuda, right, who are talking, especially at Cooperation Cup, they're narrating it. It's almost like like a TED Talk for Third Strike, because everyone's quiet and they're just listening to this guy. And so I had talked to a couple friends. I generally received good feedback on commentating at Cooperation Cup, but some of the negative, I would say it was negative feedback, was you guys are really quiet. Like, you guys didn't get really hyped. And it's like, you don't realize I can't yell.
Right. Because then you're disturbing the crowd's experience, which is something that's really unique. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's so funny because people like to look at Third Strike players as like elitists, or we think like Third Strike is a high art compared to other fighting games. And we take it so seriously. And then you have a commentary team of like me and Matt or me and Tenrin or me and RKF at the hypest event of the year. And we're like, oh my God, that was so sick.
Like golf commentary.
Like, wow. Yeah, like amazing DP right there. Like, you're like, oh, can you do it? So it's like, it was very strange. I had never commentated for that many viewers. I had never commentated for that many people in a live setting either. So it was definitely a really cool experience. And I'm very happy that people generally enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Would you do? Go ahead, Frank.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's why I would avoid doing commentary at Co-op Cup, because I can't help myself when it comes to getting hype, and I know that just from watching boxing a lot and watching Japanese baseball and stuff, just because I love sports. I'll watch whatever the hell is on. Like those crowds are super quiet. Even in a boxing match, it's almost like like the COVID like UFC. Fighters Island thing that's going on right now. It's like that just year round over there. Just because the crowds are super respectful, like they'll just clap after a round is done, which is something that's so unique. Because when you watch a fight at the MGM Grand, everybody's just like yelling obscenities the whole time. And so you just learn to do that as an observer. So I would need to practice that whole dynamic of trying to relay hypeness without disturbing the experience of the in real life viewers. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want them to be like, all right, that's it, get this guy off the mic.
And the one thing I will say too, and Matt, you can talk to this because you commentated with me, is the English, just to set the scene a little bit as far as where things were positioned in the hall of 2019 Co-op Cup, was the English commentary booth tables. Really, it's just two tables with the stream setup, was very close to the stage. Very close to 1P side on the arcade, on the Versus City. And then the Japanese booth was actually quite a bit further away. And they had like some other stuff there. They had all their like ads behind them, those banners and stuff that they have. And because of that, I think like if you listen to the Japanese commentary, they do get a little bit louder. They do get a little bit more hype, not to Nuki screaming his head off level, right?
Right.
But like they were able to get a little bit louder. And so like me sitting really like, I don't know, what would you say it was, Matt, like 15 feet away from player one side?
Yeah, about 15.
Yeah, that's so close.
Like it was really close. Like I didn't want to raise my voice too much, and knowing that a lot of these players know my voice could mean that it would be distracting as well. Because I know I'm distracted. I mean, you could talk to this as well. Like if you're sitting down and you're playing a tournament match, New York is a little different because you guys like to talk shit and you guys yell anyways. But like, if I'm playing a game and then I hear like a friend of mine go like, "Oh, that was sick," or like, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't block that," my brain, it's called the cocktail party effect, where you can have all this noise and then one person can say your name or one voice that you recognize, and it immediately sticks out and it will distract you. And so that was also something I was cognizant about.
Yeah.
But Matt, how did you feel commentating at Cooperation Cup?
It was like Majin Obama and Giuna didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And I just saw Giuna there. It was the 8 a.m. bracket. And I was like, "Hey, can I jump on the mic?" He was like, "Sure, dude." Like, he didn't even look at me. He was just like, and so I jumped on. Like, I have, no experience training, but I just like to get hyped about the game. But you're right about one thing. It seems Nuki and Kokujin are outliers, where they're just, it's okay for them to get crazy. And there is nothing better to me than Kokujin and his eye and Nuki and his eyes, especially when Genki's playing. Nuki just comes out of nowhere and EX elbow. Like, it's so good.
I need Nuki to commentate to be the official voice of the Street Fighter 6 commentator. Like like, you remember how the Street Fighter 4, in round or in match commentator would just talk so much crazy shit. Like I miss that. I miss that personality of these newer fighting games. Like 5 is totally missing that for me. But
5 feels a little stale in that regard, right?
Yeah. Like even the CVS2 announcer was like, what happened, Matt?
No, I say, with Dankah, would you ever do commentary for Street Fighter 5? If you do, you got to talk a little shit. Like when Alex come out, be like, "Yeah, it's Alex, but it ain't Alex. Everybody relax."
You see, that's why they think we're elitists, because we can't watch another game.
Right. Well, here's the thing. This is the other thing that might make me a little different than other people who have commented. I've never commentated anything other than Third Strike. And so I've I would not commentate Street Fighter 5 because I don't know anything about Street Fighter 5. Like, no clue what character is good or not. I don't watch it. I don't care. To be fair, I barely play. People like say like when I meet him for the first time or something like that, like Telesniper, right? I met him for the first time. I think you guys probably did too, at
Defend the North.
what was in New York?
At the
Defend the North.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think like one of the first questions he asked me was like, "What other fighting games do you play?" And I was like, "Nothing."
Like, what's a fighting game?
So because of that, maybe I haven't been influenced by other things, or like I'm so narrowly focused on very specific Third Strike things. And I do pride myself on game knowledge. I think I have pretty good game knowledge. Mm-hmm. I lived there for quite a long time. I've picked up other characters. I haven't picked up the characters that suck, because who cares? I picked up Yun.
Agreed.
I play Ken. Like, I like Yang. Yang's kind of fun, and so that helps as well. Like, it's very specific Ganagin things. I think is important to understand how Ganagin works, how a player should be blocking it. What I like to call minding your manners against Ganagin, which basically just means just block it. You know, unless you're Chun-Li and you can fit in a crouch jab, or you know, Yin Yang, anybody with a 3-frame normal. So things like that help a lot. And I think if somebody wants to commentate Third Strike, just like watching the game a lot, or listening to commentators that they like you guys, or I think Fran is really good too. I think Fran's a great Third Strike commentator, fantastic, and from New Jersey.
For sure.
I think Ultra David is a pretty good commentator too. He's lacking in current Third Strike knowledge because he kind of stopped playing quite a while ago, but he's such a good commentator. He's commentated everything. Mm-hmm. You know, you can give him marbles and he'll be like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
Blue is in the lead.
Yeah, the thing about Ultra David's commentary is that even though you're right about his lacking current game knowledge, he has a good sense for the beats of the game. You know, for the flow of how rounds are going, and you know when a person tries to steal their turn like too quickly, and you know, so he'll bring that to the forefront of it, more like the mind games of it, and not necessarily like the you know, the numbers or the X's and O's of how like the moves work.
Right. I will say there are times where commentators, and myself included, can get too caught up in the previous round. And that was like something I noticed in myself like pretty quickly. And so like if something like really sick happened and it was because of some really complicated situation, or like that was so sick, I wish I could spend 5 minutes telling you why, but I don't have the time. We're on to the next round.
Yeah, right.
And you just have to go to the next thing. And so there are times where it's like, you know, I've commentated with people where like it's like 20 seconds in the next round and they're like still talking about that one situation from the previous round. It's like, I'm like, dude,
like he's dead. He's dead now. He's out of the tournament.
He's already dead. Yeah. The next guy up is already playing. Like, relax. But like, I will say, I think Matt and I have a very good commentary synergy. I am not the best at like getting hype and being like, oh my God, because I feel like I already kind of know, especially because I know a lot of these Japanese players. So like, this is the example I like to think about a lot. It was the very last match of Cooperation Cup last year. It was Vanal versus someone sick. Deshikan. Thank you. Deshikan's going to win. Right? Yeah. Like, Deshikan's going to win.
Right.
We know that. The audience doesn't know that. The audience at home in America is like, oh, sick, Denjin Ryu. Like, I want to see this. And they're excited, right? Because you don't see Ryu a lot on stream, and especially Denjin. And, like, for what little a lot of the casual Third Strike viewers know, they know Denjin is bullshit. And so they're excited to see it. Right? But, like, I know Deshikan's going to win. I know he's probably going to destroy him. And Deshikan, like, just destroyed, like, 3 other guys on that team who are all way better than Vanal. No flame to Vanal. He's a great player. But, like,
right.
He's playing Denjin Ryu. Like, there are better players and better characters. And so for me, like, it's harder for me to, like, get up for the match because, like, I know he's going to lose.
But then that's where, like, where the Mats of the world, you know, shine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and like Matt can be like, "Oh, he socked him."
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
And that's when I can bite my tongue and just like I can say like a little something and then be like, Matt's gonna say something dope. Let's let Matt say something dope.
Yeah,
you know.
That's funny. Yeah, that's what I feel like your strength is as a commentator too. Is just very you have a high intellectual, like emotional and intelligence about you, and so you can tell like you don't one round in you know whether this person is a color commentator or play by play, and then you'll adjust really quickly. And I think having that sports like parallax is important too, to because you get to bring those flavors. Like I want to be the Mike Breen of Third Strike. I want to have like just one signature thing that I can say when somebody gets like a red parry or something sick like that. You know what I mean? But yeah,
right.
So
or if you watch UFC, like John Anik, Joe Rogan,
right.
Michael Bisping. I watch a lot of UFC, so that's like where a lot of my commentary is probably flavored from.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched a lot of sports throughout my whole life. I mean, you get some terrible commentators, especially like NFL Sunday Night.
Oh my
like,
god, dude, the NBA players only. Oh my god, I'll just play some lo-fi or some jazz and just mute the fucking game. I'm not dealing with that.
But like that's valuable, right? To recognize like commentary you don't like
right.
at the same time, right?
It's true.
Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's like a test of self-awareness. Like I know I'm not good at play-by-play, so I wouldn't get on the mic with another person who's loud like me. I would just let's relax there, everybody. We're not in a soccer game.
See, I think color commentary is so much harder.
Agreed.
Like I think it's really difficult because you have to feel genuine, and for the most part you are. But there are times where I'm sure you could talk to this, Matt, where it's like, okay, like I'm spicing it up a little bit. You ham it up a little bit because that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to show the game in a good light, and I think at the end of the day, that's all you really want to do. You want people to get excited about the game, hopefully teach them a little bit about the game too. But enjoying it is the number one thing. That's what you want.
Are there Nah, go ahead, finish up. I just have a question about Qualcomm.
No, I was just gonna say you owe it to the player too, because when they rewatch their match, you don't want someone to be like, like I know I'm gonna get bopped by Chun, but make me feel good.
No, you're right. Yo, I have the worst luck with that, by the way. Like every time I play a different game that's not Third Strike and it gets commentated, and it's always a match where I do something good, the commentary is so awful. So it's just it'll never. I feel like it'll never do me any justice. So I understand Matt when he talks about like wanting to do the players that are playing justice, especially in tournaments like the Jazzy, like finales or the circuit events. Because those players don't get an opportunity to like show up on stream as often as other players do, and so it's good to feel that responsibility in terms of making sure that you try to put them over. You know what I mean? As much as possible. You don't try to denigrate them. Even if something was a stupid decision, you try not to, harp on it. You try to give everybody like their due diligence, like their due. You try to give the devil its due. You know what I mean? And just try to give everybody that respect. I think it's important, because I want the game to grow, and I want the production of these tournaments to go a lot better too. And so I think commentary has always been overlooked in that sense. But it's super important, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. There are certain things that stick out to me. Like if I were to give you specific examples of things I don't like in commentary, it's when someone says, "Oh, he's going to shore you," and then the next you, and then he doesn't shore you. And it's like the commentary has devolved into me trying to like be that's my quarterback. Who's the quarterback from the Cowboys? Tony Romo, roast to Jameis, right? When he started NFL commentary, like the year after he retired, he was just calling plays. He knew exactly what was going to happen, and I think like everybody fell in love with that. But then it kind of bit him in the butt because everyone was like, "Hey, keep like telling the future, like do that thing."
Yeah.
You know, like that meme where everybody turns around to Bart Simpson in class and they're like, "Say it again, Bart."
Yeah.
Like that turns into like basically I say all that to say like commentary can devolve quickly into something that is not fun to watch and becomes too much about the commentator. And I don't want that to happen. I want to fade away into the darkness and just like guide you on this third strike spiritual journey that is Cooperation Cup. And that's the other thing. These matches like kind of write themselves. Like these aren't players I've never heard of, most of them. You know, they're great matches. It's not like I'm like really trying to get up for like a Fightcade tournament, which no flame to Fightcade, but like it can be difficult. I would assume it would be very difficult to commentate at certain times compared to a live match against players that have been playing for 2 decades, you know. And so I think because they're so good and the matches are so fun to watch, and there's storylines through, you know, like it gets wrestling kind of where you have like, you know, Shiro Kudo beat Ricky Morrow last year. Will it happen again? You know, an all Ken pre-coup team has never won, even though he's one of the best characters. Can it happen for the first time? Like you have things to talk about when you're invested in the scene and when you kind of know the backstory of things too.
Yeah, that's a big advantage for sure, of kind of being in that scene over there. Do they ever allow like 3-man commentary teams for Co-op Cup? Like, has that ever happened? I feel like 3-man teams might be too much for a game like Third Strike, but I don't know. I haven't.
So I've actually thought about this a lot. Not just the 3-man thing, but the kind of commentary based on the game that it is. So, like, I don't know if people have watched a Vampire tournament. It's over in like 30 minutes.
Like the whole thing.
Like, yeah, the whole thing. Like, they run top 8 and everything, and like 30. Like, Vampire is a really fast game. Really fast. I don't know how they commentate it. Like, you can't call out moves.
Right.
You just be like, oh, that was sick. Oh, he's knocked down. Oh, he got up.
Yeah, Tenshi was short
awesome
circuit
push
for
block.
sure.
Yeah, so like it depends on the game, and then you watch like Street Fighter V, which you have like 15 seconds in between matches because the loading screen's sitting there, and it gives you all of this time to talk about the 2 players, talk about the styles, talk about the characters, talk about a storyline. Like you have so much dead air that you need to fill. But I think Third Strike is closer to Vampire, especially at the highest level. It is very fast.
Yep.
And it's high damage. You know, the only times where it's not is like Chun-Li, Yun if he's running away, building bar, Q if he needs to play really safe, Hugo. Like, but for the most part, it's fast.
Really
and
fast.
So I think that's another advantage. Like I've never commentated other games, so I'm used to like just trying to get my voice in there quickly and then dropping out because there's not a lot of time.
No, it's true.
But as far as 3-man, I've personally never seen a 3-man setup for commentary in Japanese for a Third Strike tournament. It's happened at like weeklies, like at Game Versus when they're streaming Tilzaisen, which is East vs West War, because that's just something that happens every week. People are chilling out, they're smoking a cigarette while they're commentating because they're in the arcade. Like people might be drinking even though they're not supposed to. So yeah, multiple people, up to 3 people will hop on the mic and just talk and just hang out. But in a tournament setting, especially Cooperation Cup, I've personally never seen either in person or on stream more than 2 people commentating in the Japanese setup.
Yeah. I think that's why Nuki's commentary is so popular, because from what you know, from the nothing that I understand really about, you know, like the Japanese language, it just sounds like he's saying the things that are happening as they're happening, but not in a play-by-play kind of way. It's like the move that hits, he'll say that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And get hype about the move that hits. But that's just what I get. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't know.
I would say that is the Japanese commentary style as a whole, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, he'll say like, "Oh, Jupan,
Yeah.
Taipan,"
Yeah.
you know, it's like, he'll scream throw. Like he's literally just saying the word throw.
Yeah.
Like in America, we wouldn't be like throw. You just say the word. Right.
No, man, they laugh us off the mic.
Exactly. So it is a very accurate observation on your part that Nuki's just saying like, "Low forward, fierce, oh, through parry, blocking good.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, parry, you know, because I think a lot of times the audience, because Third Strike is so insular, it's such a tight-knit community, especially in Japan, they know what they're looking at. You know, like they don't need it broken down. And if you're on a house mic, you're not going to sit there and do like really in-depth play-by-play, like, oh, here's why he's doing this kind of spacing and stuff. They just want to have fun and react with you. And I think it fits Third Strike perfectly with the speed of the game as well, and how big like one low forward from Chun can be. You don't need to say, oh, low forward into Shippo Jinrai Kyoku.
Yeah.
Like for Ken, you just say low forward or super.
Yeah.
So you get away with that. And to your point, I think most people would say Nuki is their favorite commentator for Third Strike,
Right.
because he just keeps it so simple and it's really fun to listen to, whether you know Japanese or not. Like I think most people know that clip of the Sean versus Yun, right? And he does like low parry like 3 times while Yun is in Canadian, and like the first one, Nuki recognizes how big that could be, because you can do a low parry into like uppercut into Sean super, right? So that's like the only way he can really get damage in that situation. But then when he doesn't hit it, and then he low parries again, and he doesn't hit it, and then he low parries a 3rd time, Nuki is like out of his mind. He's like, you have the parry, just fucking do it. Like, he's so angry, but so excited at the same time, and it comes off perfectly, because all he's just saying, low parry, low parry, low parry, like come on. He wants Sean to win, and it comes off perfectly. That's why he's so good at what he does, and all he's saying is low parry, low parry, low parry. Oh my god! Like he just says the most basic things, but you get it. You know?
Yeah, it's like reading the room. He does that really well. So how did how would we try to bridge that with the American style of commentary, where it's more, not only is it more analytical on the way that we do it, but it's probably more necessary to be analytical, because you have a lot less experienced people generally watching our tournaments, you know what I mean? And so you kind of want to feed them some good information. And so, like, do you have any ideas about what style would work in that case? Because I do think it's about teaching people at the end of the day when it comes to our tournaments. You know?
That's a really good question. And I don't want to say Japanese commentary is not analytical. Obviously, like something like Beast TV, like what Daigo does.
Oh, for sure.
For Street Fighter 5, dude, they spend hours breaking stuff down.
Obsessed.
And like, yeah, and they run specific sets with specific characters, right? So there's a time and a place for that. But in a tournament setting, I think you're right. I think Americans are generally more analytical. I think play-by-play is like the default here. Which is funny. You would think that like the hype man, the color commentary would be the default here. But if you think about the guys who are really, and gals, or who are really good at it, it's like you think of Yipes.
Right.
You think of Steve. Steve is amazing.
Yeah, Steve is amazing. No joke.
But at the same time, they're able to like do a full U-turn and tell you why, like Steve can like break down Tekken really quickly and tell you why that was good. And so I almost feel like American commentators have to be able to do both, or at least get comfortable with doing both.
Right.
Otherwise, you kind of what Matt was saying earlier, you get 2 guys who are both play-by-play guys sitting down in the commentary booth at the same time, and that's all you get. Is just talk about the matchup, or like I feel like a lot of times Japanese don't complain about matchups very much, just in general. And I think Americans love to complain about matchups. It's
the best thing in the world.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it's like instead of going into training mode, let's just blame the game. That's like,
dude, trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers, right? I mean, that's how it works. You get on Twitter, you lose, you go 0-2, but it wasn't because you're bad. It's because you played 2 bad matchups. So you go on Twitter and you say I was bad,
and you get to feel.
But I do think, but I think that can bleed over to commentary sometimes too, where they're like, oh, this matchup sucks. Like, don't even watch this one, guys.
Yeah.
Like, they're already. It's like, dude, the guy's still playing. Like, he didn't lose yet. You know.
No, I feel that.
And so I think having a little bit more of a general positive attitude. And again, I am not an expert commentator. I only commentate Third Strike when I've had the opportunity to. But just be positive. recognize when one person wants to be analytical and you can just get a little bit more excited, or like pick, if you're going to be still analytical, pick like one little nugget of information that you think is actually helpful that you can explain in like 3 seconds, you know, without having to like be like, yes, and here's why this matchup's terrible.
Right.
When the other guy just talked about it for 30 seconds, like, okay, well, that ran its course. We've already said enough. So maybe just doing both and just recognizing what we can do and just like being positive overall, which is so hard for Americans to be positive.
We're so cynical. So irony
We're so
poison.
cynical.
But that's such a good point, though, for sure. What happened?
Great point. I got a save story for you that Dankah saved me. I don't know where he was, what he was doing, but I think he saw me talking to Matsuda, and I reached into my wallet to exchange business cards. And I you know, typical American not knowing the proper etiquette.
Yeah.
I come out there with a card like this. Dankah just Goki teleports right next to me. And he goes, "No, Matt. Present your card
With 2 hands, bend down, bend over.
There you go. Frankie knows.
Yeah, we're in there.
Right.
Yeah, Matt was gonna throw it at him like Gambit, I'm sure. Just like
Dankah, I swear after that, every conversation I had with Matsuda after that went like silk. Like,
yeah.
So,
Well, it's just nice. I mean, I think that's a perfect example for a ton of interactions for anyone that's planning to go to Japan. And like, I mean, it's weird, like, right? If you're a Yun player and you see Yakun, you're like, oh my god, it's Yakun. What do I say? I don't know Japanese. I don't know how to do anything. Or like in your case, in this example, you saw like, I think you have a lot of respect for Matsuda, what he's able to do both as a business owner and a tournament organizer, right? Like he has his hand in everything, and he's kind of like the godfather of Third Strike at this point. And so being able to go up to him and just be like, I have this X amount of level of respect for you, and I'll show that in giving my business card to you, is, you know, it sounds cliche, sounds stereotypical for Japanese, but it's a sign of respect. It's something that is very polite and it's cool to do. You know, you didn't have to do that, but
yeah,
you were able to do that. And he was like, okay, I like this guy, you know? So it's an easy way to do it.
I did have to get the emails back and forth translated.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he's super helpful guy. He literally just like, yeah, whatever you need. You want cabs? Sure. September? Yeah, I can maybe come down. Like, it's just, I don't know how he does it, but he has the smoothest operation. The way they fold those chairs at Co-op Cup for top 8, I'm like, just convert.
Yeah.
It's like zoosh, zoosh.
I have a Matsuda story. So there was one time where he helped me out a lot. I was at Game Newton late for Wednesday night free play, and he's such a man of the people, and he is himself a Third Strike player. They don't close at midnight like most arcades, or like 12:30 or whatever. They'll play like as long as he's got energy. So he'll let people play till like 2 a.m. You know, and there are times when I would get like 2 into the game and I'm running a set with Cooney and I've lost 50 times in a row, and I'm like, I just need one. Just give me one win. And so I stayed till like 1 a.m. or something, and I thought I had money on me. I had no cash on me because I'd spent it all playing Third Strike at Game Newton, which Matsuda was happy about, right? And so I go out and I hail a cab, and the guy pulls up and I say, hey, thanks. And I say like kokomade Nakano ikura desu ka, which is like from here to Nakano, which is where I was living in 2014. How much would it be? And he was like, oh, it's like $70. I was like, damn, really? So I look at my wallet. There's no money at all. I have no yen. And like pretty much no one uses credit cards in Japan, which is another kind of thing that a lot of people don't realize. All cash, pretty much. You use your Suica, which is your train pass, which you can use for a cab as well, but I had nowhere near that amount of money. So I walk in to Game Newton, I go back, and I tell Matsuda, I'm like, hey, I don't have any money. I can't get home. I live in Nakano. That's like maybe, I don't even want to know how long they would take to walk, like probably like 12 hours. or something like that. It's far. And he goes, no problem. And he just throws me manen, which is $100. He just goes, just pay me back, no problem. And I'm like dying. I'm like, thank you. I do the whole like get on my knees on the floor, and I do the thing. I don't even know the Japanese word for that, but like I got on my knees on the floor and I was like, you don't have to do this. Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it, because I'm a gaijin too. Like I want him to know I'm not taking advantage of his kindness or anything like that. Right. So take the cab back. The next week I show up. And I think I remember talking to Ryan and I was like, what do I do? Like, I don't just want to give him $100 back. I want to like do a little something extra. He goes, just buy him some beer, dude. And I was like, okay. And so I go and I get like a 6-pack of Tallboy Super Dry, Asahi Super Dry. And I bring it in and I give him that and I give him $100 back. And he was like, you did it right. There you go. And he just takes the Tallboy and he just cracks it right in front of me and starts drinking in the arcade. And he's like, here, have one. And I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. So he gave me $100 for a cab ride. I paid him back and I bought him a 6-pack. And I think that's a good customary thing to do. Yeah.
Just beer.
So he's so nice on top of everything that he does for the community in Japan. It's actually insane.